What's up again, everybody? Today we're going to talk about the absolutely fantastic news that Legend Story Studios put out like right at the end of last week. I think it was Friday. I can't actually remember what time or what day, but I was blown away by the the thoroughness of the approach that they brought to their organized play announcement. I expected them to make some sort of an organized play announcement because, well, let's be honest, I think having a plan, you could tell they've had a plan for a while, but talking about that plan coming out of this kind of like Monarch release and going into the rest of this year, it made a ton of sense for them to make some sort of like a public announcement. And they've always committed to like an organized play within LGS stance towards their game, and so it just made a ton of sense for them to release something. So let's talk all the way through from top to bottom, or I guess in this case from bottom to top, through the entire organized play cycle, how you can actually go about earning tickets to go to championships, what championships even look like, what's the very base like line tournament that you can participate in, all the way up to the top and worlds. So let's walk all the way through it, and here it is. This framework kind of spells everything out that you might want to know, and it does so in a very clear way. Like this is, by the way, just a great little chart to see everything as they break down from tier, they call it tier 1 to tier 4. You know what? I'm looking at this. I'm going to turn off this right here. Make everything flicker for a minute. Look, you can see it a little bit better now. Apologize, patrons. I apologize for making it flicker as well. Who cares? So this is literally how everything scaffolds, how their organized play scaffolds from bottom to top. And if you're just looking at a glance, we have tier 1, which is their sort of bottom tier, like the entry level tournament type things. And that includes things like skirmish, armory events, play anywhere things, on demand like tournaments, things like that. Then you advance to the more competitive tournaments like Road to Nationals and ProQuest, which is new. ProQuest, which is really cool too, we'll talk about in depth as we scroll down. Then you get to tier 3, which is the national championship of wherever you're at. And they could break this down a couple of different ways. It'll be interesting to see how they do this national championship for everybody outside of like Asia Pacific, because last year they had all these national championships in Asia Pacific only, and now that the game is a lot more worldwide, it's going to be interesting to see how they break this down. We also have the calling, which we have had the callings here in the US before when the game first released, but we haven't had one since, so it'll be nice to revisit that. And then finally you have both the World Championship and a Pro Tour. So let's kind of dive into how this all sort of situates within itself. So the bottom, I guess, tier 1, this is like sort of the one-shot tournaments that you can enter and try. It has no bearings on placement or earning a spot into higher level tournaments. Things like skirmish, things like, armory events, which are monthly armory events. By the way, I should mention this. Skirmish events, we did not know skirmish was going to be a thing past the first season. In fact, there were a lot of people, perhaps, you know what, I don't know. I don't think I ever fully bought that skirmish wasn't going to be continuing, but there were a lot of people that said skirmish was really just a one-off response to the pandemic, because playing over webcam is possible for a lot of people, and then playing on like in person was just not possible. And so skirmish was a response to that. And that might be the case. That may have been the impetus to create the skirmish series, but looking at this chart, it certainly doesn't seem that way. It seems like it has been, if it had been some just response to the pandemic, then it appears that they liked the response, they liked the feedback that they received from the people that ran skirmish events, or just in general the people that played in them, and so they've put that into tier 1, and they've listed that out as it's going to be something that's continuing. And we also do know, of course, that skirmish season 2 is indeed on the way, in fact going to be starting quite soon. So skirmish events are all standalone, as you can see here. You can gain experience on the website. There's also armory events, and there are on-demand tournaments, play anywhere. All of these fall into tier 1, which are self-contained events that don't have any bearing going forward except for XP. And experience is just something that basically ranks you. You can actually earn things through experience. Like you can earn very, very high prizes for being the first player to 1,000 experience in your country, or in your, I guess, region perhaps. And you can also, I believe you can earn, we'll find out. I thought you could earn event passes or like event invitations with a high enough XP, but I'm not sure. We'll look at that. Now, Tier 2, ProQuest. I want to read this to you because this is literally brand new. No one knew ProQuest, unless I'm mistaken. No one knew about ProQuest at all. Period. It was just, this showed up. ProQuest, the next tier of events, is where things start to get serious. ProQuest tournaments are serious high-level tournaments where the winner can take home major prizes, but also qualify for the next Pro Tour event on the calendar. Like skirmish events, ProQuest events are intended to be fairly accessible for communities around the world while providing strong prize support for the winners. Our intention is that the international travel starts to open up. We can see a pathway to hosting international Pro Tour events. We will start running ProQuest events as an independent season of organized play. So what it ends up being, if this is the case, is an independent season of organized play that they instead of just running armories monthly, you can run ProQuest events monthly perhaps, and it is like a low barrier of entry, as we saw, fairly accessible for communities around the world. And by going to these and playing and winning these ProQuests, assuming that's kind of like the how you get the prize, by playing, or maybe top 8ing or something like that, you can earn a ticket to the next Pro Tour event on the calendar. So basically, you can waltz into a ProQuest, win the ProQuest or do very well in the ProQuest, and then earn an invitation to the next Pro Tour event. And we'll talk about Pro Tour events down the page. I believe it's down there. So that also leads us to Road to Nationals. Road to Nationals are basically what ProQuest kind of sounds like. It's a higher level tournament that has major prize support and gives you an invite to the national championships. That's what a Road to Nationals is. High notoriety, high prize support, gives you a ticket to national championship. It's the same kind of sound like for ProQuest, but the ProQuest gives you a ticket to the Pro Tour. Okay, and that is, again, a brand new thing. Even though I think people were I think maybe people wanted Pro Tour to be a thing because, like, Magic the Gathering, there's like some synonymous stuff there. It's very, similar in scope. So like the old Magic the Gathering OP system, where you had the same sort of events that you could qualify and go play in a Pro Tour. That's what people wanted for Flesh and Blood, and it looks like that's what LSS wanted as well, because that's what they've done. So Road to Nationals, you can win this and you can get a ticket to national championships, basically, as well as a range of elite prizes, which is very, very cool. I think this is important to note. Classic Constructed is the preferred format for Nationals, Road to Nationals, that sort of thing. I'm going to guess that it's the same thing for ProQuest. Here's the thing. If you love Blitz, that's great. If you love Sealed and Limited, that's great. If you love UPF, which is the multiplayer format, that's great. All of those things are totally good. Like, you should love all of those because they're all fun formats. But the one that will get you like high notoriety into these big tournaments is Classic Constructed. And that is what LSS has maintained since the very beginning, when it was the only format in existence. Classic Constructed is the way to play the game at high levels. So that is what you're going to be playing at a Road to Nationals. I would imagine that's what you'd be playing at a ProQuest. And that leads us to Tier 3. So you've earned a spot in the national championship by winning a Road to Nationals event. So you go, it's a national championship. It explains itself, right? National championship. Oh, it says this, look, by making the top 8 at Road to Nationals. So you don't have to actually win a Road to Nationals. You can get an invite by making a top 8 at the Road to Nationals, which is pretty cool. Now, this is the interesting thing. National championships have not really been done, in anything except Asia Pacific, right? It's just they haven't been held. And because of that, it'll be interesting to see how national championships are actually broken down. Are we going to get a Canadian national championships and a U.S. national championships? Are we going to get a like a European national championships, which doesn't make much sense because Europe is, you know, a continent, or are they just going to like limit it to countries? Are people from Canada going to be able to play in a U.S. national championship? Those are all questions that I'm curious to know the answers to, and I'm sure we'll find out answers as we get closer. And it doesn't sound like they have anything. What's the word? It doesn't sound like they have anything in the books right now. I guess that's what I'm saying. Both of these sizes and the prize support will depend on the number of active players in the community, but we want to make sure that all our players get a chance to participate whenever possible. This part right here is what I was highlighting for. It seems, because of this statement, it seems to me like they want to allow anyone to be able to play in either of those tournaments. So like if you wanted to travel to a Canadian Nats and go and try to win it, then you could as a, you know, as a European or as a US player, but I don't know. We'll see. Calling, these are things that have actually happened. We had a calling here in like Texas and Austin when the game released. We had a calling in New Jersey when the game released, but we haven't had a calling since. And that's really interesting that we're going to continue the callings. And I like that. They've continued the callings over in New Zealand and Australia. I think Australia had one. I don't recall. Maybe they didn't. Nevertheless, this one has been, you know, kind of rolling through. They've been doing these. And we know this because there's a lot of people that have gold foil legendaries. Well, I shouldn't say a lot. There's people that have gold foil legendaries, and it was really cool to watch them open their envelope and figure out which one they had. That was both from the calling. I think they did that at the national championships as well. Yeah, so they said they've run these series in the APAC only, but as North America and Europe and UK open up, we're looking to bring this series to players in those markets as well. More details to come. Okay, so those are tier 3 events. Those are events that are like the step below what we're about to see. The Pro Tour. The pinnacle of Flesh and Blood organized play are tier 4 events, the Pro Tour and World Championship. Only the best will qualify, and victory will be hard fought. Sure. For the player that climbs to the summit and becomes the World Championship, success will truly be deserved. Blah, 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 blah. This is the part that's important. Entry to Pro Tours and the World Championships is based on our rating via a PTI. A top performance at these events can also earn additional PTI, allowing players to chain together successful performances at these events. They're going to start running these events in 2022, but you can basically bank your invitations in 2021 to take and use at PTI events. And then, of course, the World Championship there is pretty cool. So Pro Tour and World Championship are literally the pinnacle. You can only get them in invitation only, whereas like, for example, National Championship, you can get that by top 8ing a road to nationals, in taking like a big prize and winning. I guess it literally says winners also receive a PTI. In winning a national championship, you get an entry into the Pro Tour and into the World Championship to play for that, which of course makes sense. It really, here's the thing about this whole system. You can look at it on paper and it just makes sense. These are on the bottom. They are tier 1. They are self-contained. Road to Nationals are a series of events held at a variety of locations across your own region, and you can go and you can play in them, and if you do well, then you can earn an invitation to a tier 3 event like the National Championships. Same thing with ProQuest can earn you an invitation into the Pro Tour, and the Pro Tour can get you PTIs. PTIs, of course, are what you can use to earn basically a ticket to the World Championship, and a National Championship win can do the same thing, can earn you a ticket to the World Championship. I'm sure there's other things that I've failed to explain perfectly clearly, and I'm sure there's other things here and other little nuances that you'll be able to take away when more announcements are made. But essentially, this is how this form works. You play in these for fun, you can practice in them, you play in a Road to Nationals and you top 8 it, or you play in a ProQuest and you probably top 8 it. That will work your way into a national championship or into a Pro Tour. These tier 3 events will allow you to work your way to earning PTIs to get to go to a Worlds or a Pro Tour event to get to go to Worlds. And of course, everything is culminating in a World Championship, which to me really should be right here. But, you know, it makes sense being right there as well. And it's cleaner. It's clean looking. So that is the organized play program. That's the whole pathway from the bottom to the top. I think it's clear. I think it's concise. I think it's really cool. I think it'd be fun to grind your way up and see how well you do. I'm going to enjoy watching people do this. I don't know if I personally would have the time to do that. I think just because it does appear that it's going to be travel based, like traveling to different Road to Nationals event, top 8ing, traveling to the Nationals, and then, of course, traveling to a Pro Tour or a World Championship event is going to take a lot of practice, obviously, just to earn those things, and then it's going to take a lot of time, you know, and travel to get there. But I think that's part of the fun too. I'd love to go to these events. I don't know if I'd ever have the skill enough unless I really sat down and ground out a bunch of games and really figured it out. But I think it'd be so much fun to go to these events, to like stream them, to commentate them, just to watch them and to hang out with you guys and the people that are there. I think this right here, this is the future of the game. And if the game Flesh and Blood can establish itself in this competitive like sphere, then it will survive for a long time, and it will thrive for a long time because of this, and because of all the other things that they are doing that are really, quite frankly, wonderful choices. So that is the organized play. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something. I hope it's a little bit clearer if you read through it the first time and your eyes glazed over. Perhaps this made things a little bit easier for you. If it did, feel free to hit the like and the subscribe. Thank you if you made, I'm going to turn these back on. Thank you if you made that number go to that number. I appreciate you. And thank you if you supported on Patreon, because you guys make the world go round. As always, everybody, thanks for watching.